on our website. Well, again, thank you all. This is the May Techno Zoom call for the Northeast, and look forward to tonight's discussions. And Tom Mulligan, I see you're with us. So Tom was the who gave us the first question, and Tom, your question was regarding your BJ8, and it exhibits a strong hesitation above 3,500 RPMs. And you're looking for suggestions. You do have HD3 carbs. You set the idle at the RPM with a throttle bypass screws to the throttle butterflies.
Actually,
And
Peter, that's a separate issue. That was another issue.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was just something I threw out for a discussion. That and the click
Okay.
adjust if we had time. The main
Okay.
question was the BJ8 hesitation. Thank you.
Okay. You want to give us just a little
Sure.
more background? You can probably be
Sure.
more eloquent than I can.
No, thank you. This is something that is there an echo in this?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
So again, if you're not speaking, if you can put your device on mute, that will minimize the background noise.
And George is upside down.
Yeah, and I think George is where we're getting the echo.
All right, thank you. I think we discussed, I brought this up last fall. This is something that's been bothering me since last summer. And the car drives beautifully up to about somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500 RPMs. Drive it all day long without hitting that level of RPM, and it's fine. It runs like a sewing machine. You can sit in the garage, you can run it up to the rev line. It only does this under load. So before we get into possibilities, let me just quickly go through everything I've changed since last fall, so that gets that stuff out of the way. I had the carbs rebuilt over the winter by Joe Certo. That was scheduled to be done regardless of this problem, but they were rebuilt, and it had no effect on the situation. They run beautifully. So I've tried to trace this down, or I go back and forth. Is it fuel? Is it ignition? It seems like it could be either. So on the fuel side, carburetors have been rebuilt. Checked all the fuel filters. One is removable and you can clean. I eliminated another one that was up front by the carburetor. I read somewhere that if you get one close to the carburetor, it might be a problem. I have a really good one in the back between the tank and the fuel pump. It's running an SU electronic fuel pump. I tested that when I had the carbs off. I ran the fuel pump. I didn't do any official test on it. I'm not really sure how to test it. I know what the pressure should be, but I didn't check the pressure. But I ran it into a mason jar with the hose in the engine compartment just to see what the flow looked like. And it would put 2 or 3 inches of fuel in the mason jar in about somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds. Have no idea whether that's good or not, but we'll come back to that. I checked all the fuel lines, made sure that they were ethanol compatible, 30R6 or 30R7 lines or 30R9. I replaced the rubber fuel lines in the engine compartment. They were braided, and I did that mostly for cosmetics, and so I had no idea what was going on underneath. So I just replaced them. The little hose between the carburetors and the I have a rubber line from the hard line in the engine compartment up to the carburetors, so I don't have the hard line there. I replaced the fuel lines. I read online, somebody said try choking it while this is happening, see if it might be running too lean. I tried that, had no effect. The fuel pump and the hoses in the back of the car, I don't have the original hard lines in the back so I'm running some rubber hoses in the back from the tank through the carb and then connecting to the hard line. That's a 16-year-old SU pump, and the hoses, 30R6 hoses in the back, are not 30R7, so they're not the best for ethanol, but they're suitable. So that's the fuel side of it. On the ignition side, I've changed the plugs. I've replaced the Patronics, probably a very good one. Replaced the coil, the rotor, the cap, the timing. I checked the timing on the springs, checked the static timing, the all-in timing. Took the distributor apart to see if the springs were freely expanding, and they are. Um, I put in new plug wires as well with the copper core plug wires that were sort of original. I checked the coil wire in the back of the trunk where the where the battery cutoff is, because I've had trouble with that in the past. That little wire that grounds the coil in that switch, the way that's attached, it can act like a guillotine and cut that thing right off. I thought I found the problem actually with that one, because when I touched that wire, it fell off in my hand. So I said, "Oh, that must be it," and it wasn't. To make a long story short, so that's pretty much what I've done at this point. The only thing I haven't done is replace the fuel pump, which would be the next thing I would do, but I'm looking for, out of the box types of thinking here that, maybe I'm missing something simple. Maybe it's something more difficult than that. So any thoughts would be appreciated where I can go from here.
So Tom, clarity. So when you're in the garage and you tack it up, it's fine. It's only when you're out on the road
Yeah.
and you're under load that it sputters.
Correct. And
Okay.
it's when you get up to about, it's not consistently at the same RPM. It's hits a wall. It hesitates. It sputters. It's hard to describe, but it's almost like you're hitting a rev limiter when driving it. So I don't push it too hard when it gets to that point. I don't want to force it through past that. You pretty much can't go past 4,000 RPMs. And in normal driving, I rarely go much above 3,000 RPMs, especially with the 354 gears I have in that car. But so leisurely driving, it's not a factor. But when you get on it a little bit, it's annoying. It's there, and something's wrong, and that's why I want to, solve it.
Okay. Anyone have any thoughts for Tom on his sputtering above 3,500 RPMs on his BJ8?
Can you be a little more specific about how the problem occurs? Like if you're climbing a hill, so you've got a fair bit of load on, would it still occur at the same RPM?
Yes. Just as far as I can tell, Michael, it's just when driving with it. You could be going downhill, uphill, or level ground. When you hit that RPM, I think the more load you're under, the worse, and the sooner it might kick in. That's a possibility. Haven't done it.
That's actually quite important. Do you have any hills? Do you have any hills in your area?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. So what I'm sort of getting to is trying to decide. You described a rev limiter. In my mind, I'm trying to decide whether it's directly related to RPM or if it's related to load. There is quite a difference there,
Yeah, yes. I think I can. It's definitely not related to RPM specifically. I've had it occur. I've driven the car about 150 miles in the last few weeks, mostly highway. Went to a couple of events. It runs like a sewing machine on the highway. It's fine, but I did notice I've actually felt it as low as 2,500 RPMs, and I've had to take it up almost to 4,000 sometimes, high 3,000s before it happened. So it's definitely not a specific RPM, but it seems to always cut in at least by mid.
And the carburetor rebuild, and the carburetor rebuild essentially made no difference.
Correct. Yes, it was doing the same thing before last fall. And in fact, all of this stuff made no difference, and it was doing the same thing after I put the carburetors back on. They seem to run perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So does it happen only in overdrive?
Oh, no, it happens. I've actually never gotten the revs up that high in overdrive, so it only happens. I've only experienced it in non-overdrive conditions.
You mentioned you had a Pertronic system.
Yes, I replaced probably a perfectly good Pertronics with a new one.
Did you try going back to points and condenser?
No, I haven't done that. I've thought about that, and that's something I may try to go back to points and condenser and see if it makes a difference.
But the Petronics, the problem occurred with the former Petronics as well, right?
Yes.
You changed the Petronics to try and solve the problem.
Yes, just on the long shot. On the long shot, that was faulty, and it made absolutely no difference.
And have you replaced the coil?
Yes. I've run
I'm
it
out.
Yeah.
What about the ignition cap itself?
Replaced.
You expected that for cracks or
arcing? It's a new one.
And you said you put new wires on it too.
Yes, and I went from sort of the composite type wire, which I read online. Some people had some problems with one that's just pure copper core. Put new plugs in as well.
Okay, one more question. There's a little wire in the inside the distributor, which
yes,
absorbs the rotation of the distributor. You're sure that's in good condition? The little flex wire.
It's the one between the plates you're talking about. The little.
No, there's two of them. There's one between the plates and one that goes from the points to the input. Two little wires.
If I don't have points, do I still have that
wire?
Oh,
no, that's gone. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. No.
I know there's a little wire in there that
Yeah, I don't think the one fragile. I don't think the one between the plates much difference.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Did you say you have a Petronics and you put in copper core wire? Petronics specifically says not to use copper core wire.
Well, it makes no difference. Is all I can say. That's why I had the other wires in there, because I've read, don't use the other wires in these machines as well. So it made no difference, but I'll go back to points and condenser. I'll give that a try and see if that makes a difference. Then maybe there is something to that combination.
I had a problem years ago where the car would cut out and just die, and I'd get hauled into a shop and we replaced the coil, and I went on my merry way and it died again. And then we did the little condenser inside the distributor and it died again, and it turned out to be the tach.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, but it really killed the car. It didn't make it sputter or run badly, but I'm just wondering if you disconnected the tach, if it made any difference.
Well, at this point, I will. That's a fair. You mean disconnected from the coil?
Yeah.
I'll give that a try. See if that has any. I'll try anything.
I bet.
but on your
something as easy as that.
But on your car, the wire that feeds the signal to the tachometer is a continuous wire through a plastic loop, right?
I'm not entirely sure how that's wired.
What year is it?
67.
Yeah, it is. It's through a plastic loop.
So
continuous wire.
So you're saying that, meaning that it's unlikely to be.
I'd say it's very unlikely to be the tachometer.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened, but I'd say it's very unlikely.
Right. Well, I've got two things to check. What about the fuel pump? Does that sort of ring a bell in anybody's mind? Could it be the fuel pump, just not putting enough fuel through?
I'd say the delivery you described would be perfectly adequate. One little trick is to run it up. I think they say a 4-foot high head. Okay, so you run a loop 4 feet in the air, and then you measure the output. But I mean, I bet you find it make no difference.
Mm.
I had an SU fuel pump on mine, and it would cut out at higher speeds. When I'd get up to 295 and I'd start going around 65, 70, it would start cutting out and sputtering. And when I'd slow down, it was fine.
Was
I
it the
replaced that fuel pump with a facet, and I haven't had a problem since.
Yeah, I've had that suggestion to put a facet in there and not worry about it. As I said, the pump is it's not the original kind. It's the electronic SU, and
Yeah.
it's not the most recent solid state. You know, there's kind of three versions of that pump. There's the original pure contact point pump that came with the car. There's the one that was the most modern 16 years ago, which was an electronic version of that, but it still had the points. And now they have a solid state one, and that doesn't require points. But
Yeah, mine
you know,
has points.
this has points, but it's electronic. I'm not exactly sure how it's different.
Can you hook a fuel pressure gauge?
Well, I haven't tried that. I mean, these things run at, you know, what, 2-3 psi is sufficient, and I haven't tried that because, you know, that's, you know, do some plumbing. But I have the equipment to check the fuel pressure on that car, at least while it's in the garage, not while
Hook
it's
it up so you can test it while you're driving it, so you can see if the pressure is fluctuating.
Yeah, that would be an elaborate setup, but
You also mentioned that the fuel pump was 16 years old.
yes, I looked that up just the other day.
The diaphragm in that fuel pump may not be ethanol resistant.
Possible,
and it
yes.
might be getting stiff. And at a certain point where the output is called upon to increase, the diaphragm itself can't meet the need of the engine.
Yes, that's one of the things I'm concerned with, whether or not the pump is putting out enough fuel.
If it were me, I would change out the fuel pump because you've changed out everything else.
Right.
Which
Yeah,
is not
the worst thing will happen is I'll have a new fuel pump.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, I'm about that point to inspect those rubber lines in the back just in case they've collapsed. Or I mean, I had trouble with a Triumph years ago that I tore my hair out over it. It would, similar to what gentleman was saying a minute ago. I'd drive it a little bit, it would stop. Drive it a little bit, it would stop. Let it sit, it would be fine. Long story short, it turned out to be a collapsing fuel line in the back. You know, it was kinked, and it would just collapse on itself until you stopped, and it would relieve the pressure. I took a look at all those fuel lines in the back. They are also 16 years old. They are 30R6 lines. They're not 30R7, so they're not as resistant to ethanol as the 30R7 and the 30R9, but they do claim to be compatible with, you know, up to 5% of ethanol content. Of course, we're running 10. You know, it's nothing. If I change the fuel pump, change all those lines as well.
Yeah, because I wonder if fuel lines can act like brake hoses where they close up internally.
Yeah, that's been in the back of my mind about, is there something going on back there that I can't see? And that's why I changed the ones up front, because they were braided and I couldn't see what was going on inside those braided lines. And I put 30R7 lines up front, the two fuel lines I have in the from the hard line to the one to the carburetors and one between the carburetors. So that's all pretty buttoned up. I think you're right. All roads are leading to go back there in the wheel well and see what's going on. If there's anything there's nothing else to change, unless there's something fundamentally in an engine, valves or something like that could cause a symptom like this, which I'm completely unaware of.
Tom, have you replaced the tank, or
Yes.
could it be the pickup in the tank?
Well,
I mean, sometimes people, you know, they clean it and then they put the sealer in, and I'm just wondering at high speed if the strainer inside the tank could resist, or not resist, be a blockage. But
Yeah, I guess that's a possibility. The tank has been replaced with a a stainless steel or whatever or galvanized tank that moss.
Right.
And so it's not an old tank by any means, and it's not one that has been repaired or coated or anything like that.
Okay. And did you do anything? If I remember correctly, there's a little vent pipe that runs off of the distributor into the manifold for the vacuum advance, the little copper pipe.
Mm.
Could there be anything that maybe is stuck in that little copper pipe that's not letting you get the vacuum advance? I'm not sure if the vacuum advance is for high speed or low speed, though. I'm not sure.
Well, just to answer your question, it's functioning properly. I actually even replaced the diaphragm on the distributor.
Okay.
And I've just tested that with a Mighty Vac, both pressure and vacuum. So the timing seems to be working fine. I get about, I've set it static timing at 10 before, and when I run at about 3,500 RPMs, it's about 35 degrees before. That seems to be in the ballpark.
So Tom, I'm running 2 fuel pumps in my big Heelys.
Yeah, I know you are. You've mentioned that before.
And I can have a toggle switch so I can go between.
Right.
So that can kind of, so I use a facet. And again, as someone else mentioned, I've never had a problem with a facet. My Sprites, I only run facets. I don't even have SU fuel pumps on the Sprites.
Well, if I go the fuel pump route, that might be the alternative, is to reconfigure the mounting. And an SU is an easy bolt-in situation,
Right.
but a facet requires some fabrication. But
Yep.
might be a way to go. And they are, if I recall correctly, they flow through even if you have one in line. It won't block
Correct.
the fuel if it's not running. Correct?
Right. Yep. And I can get a toggle switch between them.
Yeah.
If I need to. And I do that periodically just to make sure they're both working.
Okay.
Now,
that's a
Just a
thought.
thought.
Yeah,
I would
that's
just
a
say,
thought.
Tom, I'm not a real fan for diagnosis by replacement. I would definitely be doing a fuel pressure test at the carburetors. It's not that hard to do. A little bit of plumbing, usually on the line between the carbs, and just run it to a little low pressure gauge that you can read in the car. Just a little plastic line is all you need for testing it. And but I don't like just changing things to try and solve a problem. It's
Right, but of course, so some of us that our skill set requires that we replace it rather than try to find it. But I understand completely. Actually, I just made up one of my Corvettes. I have a suspect fuel pump, and I just created a little hose situation that will allow me to check the fuel pressure on that car, and I'm pretty sure I can adapt that pretty easily to the Healy between the not the little line between the carbs, but the line from the hard line to the. I have about a 18-inch, maybe 15-inch, 18-inch stretch of rubber hose between the hard line and the front carburetor inlet. And probably pretty easy to put a T-fitting in there and put
that would be the
a
easiest,
pressure
I think.
valve. Yeah. What pressure should I be looking for?
But between 2.5 and 3.5 psi.
Yeah. Okay.
You need a pretty sensitive gauge. Like zero to 6 psi or 0 to 10.
Yeah, the ones I have are 15, and they seem to have a 2.5 psi range of accuracy.
They're on Amazon cheap.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. I don't know on an HD8 if this can even happen, but if the fuel floats are set too low, is it possible to, when you're under load, have the fuel bowl empty temporarily? Or
Yes.
can't you even?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. You check that. That's fine.
I haven't checked the fuel, the bowl level, but since the car, since it has it did this with the old carburetor as well, there's been no difference. It just didn't lead me in that direction.
Okay.
So
That is a possibility.
can you detect air bubbles in the fuel coming into the carburetor by a clear fuel line?
I don't have any clear fuel lines in place, no. If that was your
Well,
question, I wasn't sure.
What it is, I had trouble when I replaced my fuel pump with the line from the tank to the fuel pump leaking air. So it was, all I did was put the fuel line at the carburetor into a can, turn the fuel pump on, and I was getting bubbles. So then I traced down what was going on there, and I had a tiniest leak, fuel leak on the inlet to my fuel pump. All I did was tighten that, the bubbles went away, and I haven't had an issue with
Was it
flow.
leaking fuel in addition to letting air in?
Just a tiny leak. I didn't even notice that it was so tiny. It was like a wet fitting.
Okay.
So that line goes up and down, as I recall, and it can leak. Also, it can collapse, but well, wait, that's metal, I think, on my car anyway. But the fuel fitting is not. That's the leak point.
Yeah, those are all rubber lines in my car. Somebody decades ago cut the hard line at shortly after it comes out of the fuel tank. So I have rubber hoses from the fuel tank through a fuel filter, through the carburetor, and then the carburetor, a little short one to the hard line that runs under the car.
It was a motorcycle, but the cap to the gas tank lost its venting capability. It got clogged. And it was drawing the tank down into a vacuum. Now that was a motorcycle. I don't know the design of the vent in the Healy cap.
Usually when that happens, when you pop the cap, though, you'll hear a pressure release. And I've never experienced that.
I don't know if that was applicable or not. I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Tom, you mentioned that you have a fuel filter before the pump, correct?
Yes.
I would put it after the pump.
Yeah.
Okay. And
change it and put it after the pump.
All right. Why so? It wouldn't be.
Well, you can actually get vapor lock if the filter starts to block.
Okay.
The pressure the pump is drawing fuel. So if there's a blockage in the filter, the pressure in the line between the filter and the pump drops to such an extent that it'll actually start to boil, and it runs vapor through the pump, and it'll stop you. So you should always have the filter after the pump, so that the filter, the line to the pump, is never evacuated by a blocked filter.
Okay. Thank you.
My fuel filter is clear, canister is clear, and I put it in the engine compartment before the carburetors.
Bad news.
Cut that line, which I didn't like to do, but I did. I've not had an issue with it since.
Yeah, I had your auto parts store metal fuel filter in that position as well. I just took that out, figuring the one in the back was sufficient. And that one in the back is one that is you can take it apart and look at what's in it, clean it out if there's anything in it, and put it back together. And I didn't find anything in there, so I figured it. But if I go back to those hoses and the pump and all that, I can certainly move its position from before the pump to after the pump.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tom. Appreciate that.
Thank you all. I've made a list of a half dozen or more things here to kind of play with before I just start repairing by replacement, which is very tempting to do. But thanks very much. Thanks very much for everyone's thoughts. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, Nick, I see you've joined us. Nick's fairly new to the Healy world, but 6 months now you've had your BJ8, Nick, is that right?
Yeah, I just got it in the fall. I live in Connecticut, so I had it for about a month or so before I had to put it away.
Right. So you get two questions, right? One about radiator hoses.
Yeah,
and-
actually,
and
I have a
one about
third too.
tires.
Hopefully, these are nowhere near as complex as Tom's. So I'm going to replace the radiator hoses just because I don't know how old the ones on there are. They seem a bit old. So I figured, well, why don't I just replace the thermostat while I'm draining the whole system? And simple question, do I get a sleeved the way they say it was original? Do I just get a regular old thermostat? Does it matter too much? Do people have what do people usually put in there?
How did your car run now, Nick? Does it, I realize it's been the winter, but does
Yeah,
she run reasonably well?
yeah, it runs
Temperature-wise?
well and cool. I mean, I almost think it was a Southern California car. I almost think they had a 160-degree thermostat in there because it stays at 160. I just drove it last week. You know, it's 60, low 60s here, upper 50s, and it doesn't get much hotter than 160, even
Wow,
if I'm
that's
running
good.
it hard. Yeah.
Even in stop and go traffic?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in too much stop and go traffic, but
Yeah.
so any thought? I mean, I just assume I might as well get a sleeved. You know, I mean, I know they're about $100 more than a regular one, but how often do you change it?
People got thoughts for Nick regarding his replacement of the hoses and the thermostat?
I've never found that a sleeve thermostat made any difference, but maybe others have had other experiences.
We've had nothing but trouble with the sleeve thermostats that we've tried.
Where are you getting them from? I know Moss has one, and a few others have a different style, but they call them sleeved.
Just put a regular 160 thermostat in it and you're done.
Even not the 180.
No, definitely not that.
Okay, fair enough. Simple question.
That's what I run, for what it's worth. That's what I have in my BJ8 with 160 non-sleeve thermostat. The car runs very cool.
Yeah.
It runs beautifully.
Yeah. In fact, my car has an electronic fan on it. It doesn't switch on. And maybe again, it was a Southern California car. I was going to pull it off, but maybe wait one more season. So.
Does that have a toggle switch to go on and off, or is it run off a temperature with a thermostat?
It's a thermostat. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So.
And you got a tire question.
Yeah. This again, they're old. I checked. The tires are 13 years old, and so they're not worn, but certainly from what I read, probably should be replaced. They're 165/80 R15s. It's a 60 spoke wheel. I was reading people were saying get the 175/80s. I can't find them, so I'm assuming just stick with the 165/80s. Or I don't know if people have thoughts or a preference for tire make that
What
people
brand do you have on there now, Nick?
Oh God, nothing.
That's all right. Sorry.
No, I'll find it. It's they're made to be quiet. It said it's a noise suppression tire. I've never seen them before.
Wow.
Here it is. It's
They don't make any noise when you're sitting in the garage, right?
They're low noise. Nankane, Nankane.
Oh, never heard of them.
Never heard of them either. But they're old.
Send them back to California.
Made in Korea, I'll bet.
Probably. So any thoughts, makes that people use, or anyone that fits the 165/80 size is good?
Almost every car you see has the Vredesteins on it.
Yeah.
But you can, they make it both in a 165/80 and a 185/70. I don't think they make the 175/80. People like the 175 because it fills out the wheel well on a BJ8 a little bit better.
Yeah.
Especially in the back because they're a little taller. But I run the 185/70s on mine just because I like the way they look. I have the Michelin XWX tires on my.
Do you have a 60 spoke wheel.
No, I have a 72 chromes.
Yeah, they said that I'm not supposed to do the 185.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll search for the 175s. If I can't find them, I'll just get a 165 and run with.
I've been looking at. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, George. I'm Jake. Sorry.
I've been looking at tires. I have a BN2, and I've sort of focused on the Michelin XASs. They have two ratings, speed rating. I think one is S, one is V. The S would be suitable. It's a little more pliable tire, as I understand, but they're a little harder to find than the V rating, which is also suitable for the Porsche 356 series cars. I've also talked to a gentleman here in Maryland that's old school, and he is a tire shop owner, and he swears by the Vredestein tires.
Yeah.
He has them on his own personal cars, and I have an XK120. I just fitted a set of Vredesteins, but I haven't driven it enough to tell if they're better than what I had on there, which were Pirellis. But I focus on Michelin, Pirelli, and Vredestein at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the 165.
I put on my Heelys 185 Vredestein. To me, they're the best size, the most comfortable tires. And if you're pushing over 10 years, you have to change them.
Yeah.
I had an experience that I had to change them 4 tires on a trip, and really after 10 years they just wear out. There was 4 spots on the back wheel that had steel coming through it, and they looked good when I began. So get rid of them. If they're 13 years old, you're looking for trouble.
Yeah, no, I definitely am. Okay, that's helpful. Can I add a third question? This is a continuation of a question from a couple months ago. I had a bad speedometer that was jumpy, and I sent the speedometer out to the people who rebuild. It came back. I finally last week reconnected it. It's still a bit jumpy. So I called the Mike, the guy that runs the rebuild, and he said, do a favor, take the speedometer cable off, drive the car, and try to hold that cable and see if you can stop it from spinning. And I can't. And so he said, well, the problem's on the other end, which makes sense, I guess. But any thoughts about, is it just replacing the cable? Is there something where it plugs into the transmission that's typically goes wrn?
There's a little right angle gearbox on the side of the gearbox, the overdrive, which turns the cable 90 degrees, and that they have an not uncommon problem where the small piece of cable inside those things slips inside the gear. So they used to be horribly expensive, but they're not that expensive anymore. And I would suggest just buying a replacement.
Okay, so the cable's probably fine. It's probably just that 90 degree.
Unfortunately, you've got to take the gearbox cover off to change it.
I was just going to say, can I get in from underneath?
Well,
no.
If you got 3 elbows, you'll be all right. But otherwise, no.
Okay, so I've got to take the tunnel out. Okay, that'll be fun.
In the seats.
And the console.
All right. Maybe I'll just use Waze as my speedometer.
It's not that bad a job. It isn't to take that stuff out.
Once you've done it 20 times, then you get to be an expert.
Now, there's another thing. While you're in there, replace the cable also. Because why do you want to? The cable's probably not that much money if you're replacing the 90 degree.
Yeah.
And then then you've straightened out everything in that area. You don't really want to go back and do this again.
Okay, that makes sense. Good idea.
So Nick, back to your questions on tires.
Yeah.
Alan Hendricks wire wheels down in North Carolina. He's probably the one of the premier guys on tires. I have Vernonstein's on my BJ8. I am one to run 185s. I'm running 165s on my 100. And but again, you can't put 185 tires in the boot.
Yeah.
So my spare tires are 165 on the BJ8.
Oh, okay. Okay, but I can't put 185s on my wheels because they're 60 spoke.
And do you know what year's your BJ8?
67.
Wow, I wonder why you got 60 spoke, because I think by then they were all 72 spoke.
No, they were 60s. 72s were not sold on Heelys.
Really?
No, never. They were all sold with 60 spoke.
And
Okay,
I don't
thank
think
you,
mine
Michael.
are original because they're chrome. They're nice wheels.
Yeah, nor were they chrome originally.
Yeah.
Right. Painted steel painted. Okay.
I mean, I guess I could look into, I have no idea, what does a new set of 72 spoke wheels cost?
Well, again, I
Few
checked with
hundred
Alan
bucks
Hendricks.
each. Yeah.
It's a black hole.
Yeah.
You know, so Alan Hendricks will go ahead. He'll sell you the complete kit. He'll ship it to you via UPS.
Yeah.
He also shaves and balances the tires for you as well.
Okay. Okay.
And gives you specifically which should be the rears, which should be the fronts. So
okay.
the best wheels are always on the front.
Okay.
Now,
Okay,
on
I'll
my
give him a
BJ
call.
originally, when I bought it, I Ken Beck, I don't think Ken's on the call right now. He went and looked at my tires. He said my rear tires were square.
Wow.
So
Right.
the wheels. But then now, do you have any scuttle shake, Nick?
No, it really
60 miles
runs
an
well.
hour. Okay, that's good.
It runs well. And so, you know, I was just going to try, that was the other thing, is to try to find someone in my area that'll you know, put or deal with wire wheels without ruining them. But
Where are you, Nick?
I'm in Connecticut,
Okay.
Greenwich, Connecticut.
I contacted Hendricks and I said, just send me a new wheel, do the tune-up on it.
Yeah.
He replaced, he did something inside the wheel itself so there's no paper that might chafe the tube. Put new tubes. He did everything for me. Balanced them. Never had an issue.
Wow.
And you just
You
mount them
shipped
on
your
the car.
wheels to him?
Shipped my wheels to him, yeah. A little pricey.
Yeah. Got it.
I think that was $90 a tire.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Came UPS. That they were strapped, they were wrapped together, and it was a piece of cake.
Got it. Got it.
So,
well, if it's 90 to ship them and 200 for a new one, I'll do the math.
Peter, you said something a minute ago that caught my attention. You said on your BJ8 you're running 185s. Is that correct?
yes. Yes.
Is that 185/70 or 185/80?
185/70s.
And that won't fit in your trunk? I have 185/70s in my trunk.
Won't fit in my trunk. I got a 165 as my spare tire.
I have the 185/70 Michelins in the trunk, and they fit. Just surprised me, unless there's something else in the way there.
Well, you know, did you have that block in the back there where the tire sits up in the boot with that block? Mine has that, so it sits out too far, so you can't close the boot lid for the 185.
Yeah, I have a block on the on the outside of that space, not on the sort of, let's call it the firewall between the trunk and the interior. So that's probably the difference.
I actually put as a spare a 155/15 slides perfectly under the two blocks, the one on what you're calling the firewall and the one on the wheel well, and it fit perfectly underneath. And to be quite honest, I haven't used it.
Right.
Hope I don't have to.
Yeah.
I modified the blocks.
You shaved them down?
Pardon me?
You shaved them down?
Yeah. Well, more than one ways to skin a cat.
Yeah. Okay. So Bruce Olson, I know you're on. You got some questions regarding he's got a BJ7. I saw it there in the background. I do have those pictures sent me, Bruce. If you want me to share those, he's got Bruce. Why don't you go ahead and let us know what your question is and your concerns regarding this installation of your top.
Before you move on, can I just give an addition?
Go ahead, Rob.
There's a wire wheel repair place in Auburn, Mass. I used them a number of years back and they were great. They balanced it, they trued them. I don't remember what the price was, but it was for my BJ8 and they were great. If you want a number, it's 508-832-3222.
Okay. Do you know the name?
Yeah, wire wheel repair.
That makes sense.
When I go skiing, I stop by there and drop things off.
Now, how long ago was, because I heard he's well into his 80s, and I had heard someone say that he's not in business anymore.
Okay, it's been a while, so I don't know. It hasn't been lately.
No, he's still in business.
Is he, Charlie? Okay. Thank
I
you.
had one of our club members send his wheels there and they were done.
Okay.
Thanks, Charlie. Go ahead,
Thank
Bruce,
you.
you're up. You're on mute, Bruce. Bruce, you're on mute. Bruce is going to do a dog and pony for us.
Right. Okay. Can everybody see this okay? So,
Yep.
the last thing I've really got to do before I can finally, well, I've got the car on the road, but the last thing I can do to really finish the car is to get the top done. And I'm scheduled to go to Turner Upholstery in Rye, New Hampshire in a week. And so I put the frame in and I discovered that the rear two bows on a BJ7, and I assume I don't know if it's the same on a BJ8 or not, but the rear bow sits just above the window. And then when it falls down, it falls inside, through the molding under the cowling and sits below the cowling. And then the rest of the top folds and sits on top of the cowling like that. So the whole thing sits, fairly low, and the top cover and the tonneau cover are designed for that. But the problem that I'm having, and I think it maybe even stems all the way back to the jewel frame that I got several years ago when I started this project, is that there's very little, you can hearing the bare bar just barely touching the molding as it's going down. And that's going to be wrapped with a couple of layers of vinyl, and stitching and stuff. So there's not enough clearance. And I was wondering how much it actually needed. And I talked to Bob Britton, who's got a BJ7, and he lowered his top and looked, and he had about a half an inch or 5/8 of an inch clearance here between this rear bow and the molding, so that so the top could fit down below there. And so I'm looking at a couple of different things. There is a little bit of adjustment on the hinge here where the mount, where it mounts to the wheel well here. You can adjust that a small amount. You can also shim up the rear of that, which sort of cants the whole thing forward, and that gives you a little room in the back. But there's no way I'm going to get 5/8 of an inch or a half an inch or even 3/8 of an inch clearance so I can get it to work right. Unless one thing I was thinking about was actually shortening the arm for these two bows by a 1/4 or 3/8 of an inch, so that when it falls down there's more clearance there. But then that makes it, I don't know if the top's going to fit. So I'm actually going to bring the car next week to the upholsterer, and we're going to put the top on it and see, what makes the most sense. But I was wondering if anybody's experienced anything like this before, and also, or if they have any ideas of possible ways to get more room back there with the rear bow, clearing that molding.
So you mentioned the dual frame. So you think something's different with the dual frame that affected that?
I think what it is the rear shroud is maybe sitting forward relative to the mount on the wheel well, the rear wheel well for the frame. So, and I checked the molding to make sure it was butted right up against the cowling, and that looks good. And so, I don't, at this point, I don't want to be messing around with that,
Right.
everything's painted and everything is all done. I'd rather not mess with anything in terms of the body to get that right from that point of view. So, and I'm worried if I shift things too far forward, that's going to create problems with, the wood and the molding going correctly with the windows up and that sort of thing.
Right. Well, Amanda, you got a BJ7. Any idea in terms of how much space you have when you fold the top down around the rear shroud?
I do not, but I can only tell you that I do not get any rubbing when I fold it down.
Right.
I think you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place now, and your upholstery guy, I think, is going to be your best bet as to whether the way to go is to shorten that support bow back there, cut a quarter of an inch out of it or something and weld it back together, which is certainly easier than trying to move the shroud rearward and then the bumpers or the fenders and everything else. I wouldn't try to shim that top bow at all, because you're right, it will change the fit on the windshield, on the top of the windshield, and you'll never get it to seal up properly.
Right.
So you've got to deal with the back. Fortunately, on a convertible top, you think about the bottom of the convertible top in the rear, it just goes in over, and then a horseshoe loop goes over that to hold it in place. Mm-hmm. So you can keep pulling that material as much as you need to get it to lay across the rear top bow as smoothly as possible. Mm-hmm. Whether it's perfect, I don't know, but your upholstery guy will be able to help you with that, I'm sure.
Yep. Okay.
Bruce, is that the original frame for the convertible top?
Yes, it is. Okay. Yep. Yep.
And before, when you had the car, you didn't have a problem? I know you put a new frame on, but.
Yeah, no, I bought the car all apart, so it didn't, I'm assuming it's the original frame. It had the same color top as what came with the car originally. So I'm assuming it wasn't on the car when I got it. I got, the car with a bunch of parts separate with it. Yeah.
Do you think the mounting points for the frame have been messed with?
Yeah. Well, I think the wheel wells, when I first got them, I don't know if they were replaced by Jewel or if they just welded, because there was some rot there on the rear wheel wells. So I don't know if they replaced the whole rear wheel well, in which case, that mount sits right on that rear wheel well. So
I'd be doing some measurements for the position of that mount. That to me sounds like the most likely problem, though. I think the frame is mounted too far back.
Oh, okay. Okay. In that case, then I could, without having to actually move the mount, I could probably figure out a way to move the frame a little forward, if that,
a whole expander.
Right.
I'm thinking I have a BJ7 too, and I don't have a problem with that, but my top does not fit real well. So it's all kind of it's just cobbled together. They hold those two back hoops up by the webbing. I think that
Right.
holds its positions, if I'm not mistaken. I put the top on back in the year 2000. Had a lot of trouble doing that, but the other thing you could do and think about anyway is to slot those mounting holes on the top, on the base of that hoop,
Frame. Yeah.
so you can move that forward.
Yep.
And I mean, I can go measure, see how much clearance I have, and let you know. And also, maybe you can change the bow so that where it's hitting, that is compressed a little bit. It'll push the sides out a little bit, but I don't know how far I would go with that sort of a thing. But you might be able to rebend that top, the bow, so it's less high.
Yeah.
Give you more headroom,
Yeah,
by the way. In the
it is a
back.
little bit tighter on the sides than in the middle, but it's certainly not, half an inch. It's more like maybe a quarter, maybe a little less than a quarter of an inch difference between the sides and the middle. So I could reshape it and get a little bit, sort of more even spacing all around the bow.
I would suggest messing with the frame is not the best idea. I think your fault is where the frame mounts.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll put the wood on there, and he's done a bunch of these tops, so he'll know probably if things are off or whatever. All right. Thank you
Great.
very much.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yep.
Jim Constantine, I saw you're on. You got a question regarding tube shocks? Is this for your Sprite or for your BJ8?
BJ8.
Okay.
And
So you got a question of whether it's worth putting on
Yeah.
tube shocks?
yes.
Okay.
And
Now, are
how
they
easy?
new tube? I saw you. I wasn't familiar with the brand you mentioned. And are these new or are they used?
New.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the brand again? I've never heard of it.
Wheelwright.
Wheelwright. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone have experience with Wheelwright tube shocks for a BJ8?
Yeah, because I was wondering how easy or hard the job of installing them was, and then if it was worth it. But if nobody's had experience, then it would be for me to find out.
I know Bob Britton, I think he's installed tube shocks on his BJ7, and I know he's pleased with it. So I have heard people who've done it and they like them.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with Wheelwright though.
Yeah. I mean, the illustrations look simple enough. And see, I don't have the shocks with me right here as to the brand. But all right, I'll check with Bob and see if he has some advice and what his experience is once he's got them installed.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Jim?
No, that's my major concern right now. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Ken Fleming, you're still on, Ken, right? Yeah, I see you're on, Ken. Ken's looking for a boot lid. Is that for a convertible or a roadster, Ken?
For a roaster. But it should be
Anyone
the
have
same,
a good boot lid they're interested in selling for a roadster? So is it for a 4-cylinder or for a 6-cylinder?
6-cylinder.
Okay.
I think they're all the same, actually.
They're all the same, yeah.
Are they 4s and 6s the same? Okay.
No, 3000.
No, 4s is different. 4s are different.
different.
All 6s are the same.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I thought the convertibles were different. My bad. Anyone know of a source for a good boot lid for Ken?
There used to be one on eBay for $1,800, but it's probably gone.
I'm sure it is.
Well, Ken, we've got a whole selection of bootlids. I'll have a look through them tomorrow and see if there's anything that's salvageable and get back to you.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Okay.
Isn't
Are there any
Carlisle-
other questions tonight?
Isn't Carlisle this weekend?
I think it is, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's got. I don't think Steve Bell goes up from Florida anymore.
Probably
I
not.
will be attending.
Carlisle, yeah, we're going out on Friday.
Oh,
I'll be there. I'm going up Thursday.
okay.
There,
Rob, do you have
last
your new
year,
BJ8
you
yet?
went on-
No, it's like I am having such an issue with the title.
Uh-oh.
The guy lost the title, had to reapply for it in Florida, and I think he has to go one title back to get the original thing so he can sell the car. It's like it's been almost 30 days, and I'm still going around with it. So, not happy.
As far as Carlisle on Thursday, I don't think there's any activity anymore on Thursdays.
Well, I go down and set up because I'll have a booth with a buddy of mine. So get the lay of the land.
Yep.
George has a question.
Right, George.
Yeah, I was out for a drive yesterday, and someone pulled out in front of me from a driveway, and I discovered that I have a telescoping steering wheel. The steering wheel moved 2 inches into the column. When I got home, I played with it, and the steering column moved in and out about 2 inches. And there seems to be something like a bit of a collar that it sits in. And that collar then, I guess, sits into a spring. I can't find anything in my manual that gives me a diagram of that. Anybody familiar with that?
You have an adjustable steering column.
Yeah, which model Healy do you have, George? Is it a later one?
It's BT762.
Okay.
Now I had Auto Farm replace the steering wheel and the horn setup 2 years ago, but this is the first time I've noticed anything like that happen.
So the steering wheel is mounted on splines, and that's where the adjustment is. It's not loose down at the bottom end where it bolts to the frame, is it?
I'm not sure I understand that, but I can feel the spline when I put my hand under the dash, and I push that little collar onto it, and then I can push the steering wheel in, but I don't know what locks that together.
There's
Well,
a
if you turn,
there's a
Go ahead,
large
Michael.
there's a large nut on the bottom of the steering wheel hub. It's about 2.5 inches in diameter, and that nut, if you turn it, looking at the steering wheel, if you turn it anti-clockwise, it locks the steering wheel on the spline. Well, it's meant to. And when you turn it clockwise, it loosens it, and you can move the steering wheel in and out about 3 inches. And there's actually a sort of a telescoping collar or a telescoping cover, there's meant to be, over the spline, which could well be missing. But that nut is the key. Very often they're really, really tight, and you almost have to use tools to loosen. I use a strap wrench usually.
Could you just repeat that last sentence? They're very, very tight.
To loosen or tighten that nut, I use a strap wrench, like the thing people use for loosening oil filters. But they can be so tight you almost have to use channel lock pliers to loosen them.
Tell me, Mike, do I have a problem driving the car the way it is?
Well, it's not always safe to have a steering wheel that you can pull in and out at, during driving. You really do need it locked.
Okay.
Okay, so as I said, if you turn it anti-clockwise when you're looking at the steering wheel, that tightens the locking collar. You turn it clockwise and it loosens the collar.
Okay, thank you.
See, also, if that steering wheel slides in and out all the time, it's going to wear that spline connection. And you're going to end up with you could end up with a loose steering wheel. But if the steering is sloppy enough, so I'm going to be concerned about that. So I have to agree, that's got to be tight.
But it's all Bob's fault.
Bob, is there anything you want to add?
I figured as much.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what Mike has said is perfectly logical, but those nuts are notoriously difficult to get tight enough. And once they are tight, they're bloody near impossible to undo. So it's not the best of fixes. But the wheel is supposed to go in and out. That is the how it's designed, and you put it where you want it, and then tighten up that big nut, the big plastic nut.
Yeah, there's the other problem. That nut is plastic in my car, and I found that it was cracked, so I couldn't get it tight. It just expanded itself, and so it was toast.
Well, it's actually metal coated in plastic. It's not all plastic.
Yeah, it's like what do they call it? Powder coating, isn't it, Bob? It's like a thick paint.
Pretty much, yeah. I know we use channel locks. We wrap the nut in a rag and then use channel locks to tighten them and loosen them.
Do you hear that, George?
No, I didn't make that out. The echo is too hard on my ears.
Oh, yeah, I know, because you got two sessions running. That's the problem. So what you want to do is you want to wrap that large nut and use channel locks on it to tighten it. You know, Michael talked about a strapping wrench, or others had said they're using channel lock. But you want to you want to make sure it's protected, because that's a soft plastic that's around that nut.
Okay, thank you.
I think you guys are using the word nut, and I would describe it more like a collar or a funnel shape, not, an octagonal nut. So it might be a little confusing. I was flipping through the Moss book to see if there's an illustration, but I guess for the adjustable column, they don't show that part, which is a little confusing to me. But yeah, everything else they said.
Collar is probably a good way to refer to that, Steve. That's a good point.
Okay. Yeah, so don't look for a nut. Look for something just the way it was described, but you're supposed to be able to grab it with your hand and twist it. But these guys are right. It's either really hard or frozen. Okay.
Thanks, Steve. Other questions today?
I got a quick
question, Pete.
Please.
59 BN6, starting a cold engine. Difficult, very difficult. Time consuming. Any advice?
You got the choke fully pulled out?
Choke is all the way out. Foot is off the gas pedal.
Although the choke control may be fully out, you actually have to look at the carburetors to see if the choke mechanism on the carburetor is moving. I don't know how familiar you are with them. But if you take the suction chamber off and then lift the piston and the spring out, you can see the jet. And what the choke does is it drops that jet. So you should compare the choke in position to the choke out position to where that jet is. And that's
okay.
That's
When the engine is warm, it runs beautifully and should start right away.
almost certainly the choke was not actually working in the
Right.
carburetor.
Okay, good, thank you.
And just to add something, I assume there's two carburetors on that car, correct?
Correct, thank you.
I just, as I mentioned earlier, I just had the carburetors rebuilt, and I noticed that the choke was not pulling both chokes at the same depth. I did exactly what Michael said. I took the parts out and looked at the jet to see how the choke was reacting, and I found out that the rear choke was choking properly and the front choke was not. So I had to adjust that wire, which is a pain in the ass. But that's another thing. They may be they have to be balanced as well as just working.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Other questions tonight?
I just had a
I have
quick
a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question that sort of came up from a talk earlier. I was curious, do most people run 160 thermostats in their 3000s? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the recommendation.
Yep.
Okay.
Unless you're doing it, driving a lot in the winter.
Yeah.
I had a question on the gas gauge. I have a gas gauge that's when you fill the tank, it goes way above the F line, and about an eighth of a tank is empty. Rebuilding them, you can't buy a new one, but is there a place to send it to rebuild it other than the UK?
If you're really skilled, you can actually adjust it yourself.
Oh, I've been there.
The two little nuts on the back, isn't that fun?
So tell me how you would do it, because it's basically a rheostat, right?
Yeah, I've only ever done it a couple of times, but the biggest problem is when you try to loosen off those little 6PA nuts. It's very easy for the stud to turn and break the wire inside. So you have to be very careful as you're undoing the nut that the stud is not turning. Okay. Once you get
Okay.
when you get the nuts moving without the stud moving, they slide in little slots. And then one of them is to adjust the full position, and the other one is to adjust the empty position. And that's what you do. Okay, that's what they're for. But I tell you, it is brain surgery. It's really difficult.
Okay, so then the question is getting them redone in the US. Does anybody?
Yeah, I think most of the instrument guys can redo them, recalibrate them for you. You're looking for a recalibration, not a rebuild, just recalibration.
Correct.
And it's a question of the amount of voltage that's being applied to it. Okay, so it has a 12-volt supply, and then it has a variable resistor inside the tank. And what they do is they use that variable resistor to supply the voltage required for the positions.
Yeah, but as you were describing it works correctly, but it's just like slid out.
I think so. Most likely, yes.
Way too much on the.
Yeah, that's right.
You can
Yeah.
see like the whole
that's
internal.
those little adjuster nuts.
Yeah.
Something to keep you. They'll charge you for a rebuild whether it's broken or not broken. So you may as well have a shot at it.
Okay. All right.
Hey,
Well, I have
Steve.
a couple of gauges. I might just send one off. Are they in British Speedo? I thought I went on their website and I didn't think they did that, but I'll check.
Well, so that was the gentleman. He used to be at Nossinger's, and when Nossinger's got flooded out, so I believe he's doing it. In Nick, didn't you get your speedometer rebuilt by Mike and had it back in less than a week?
Yeah, he did he turned it around in about a week. Yeah.
When I went online, I didn't see anything about gas gauges. So I'll go back and check that out.
I just went into his website. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing that or not.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's a pain in the ass with Zoom.
Well, I'll check it out. It was just
Yeah.
I know that I can send it off to the UK, but it seems like a bit of a chore to do that.
Right.
I have a question for Michael about fuel gauges. On your blog, you have a remedy for the early fuel gauge, the BM1, BN2, that dances quite a bit. And you used a wire, twisted wire, basically, or coiled wire in the sender, or soldered to the and screwed to the sender. Do you still recommend that? Does it still?
Well, I have actually have the same thing on both my hundreds, and it works perfectly. The difficulty, as explained on the blog, is that the grounding circuit is through the pivot for the arm, and what happens is the fuel evaporates out of that area over the years, and it actually starts partially insulating that joint, and that's why the gauge flickers. That's what I've figured out. So that little repair that I did, which I cannot claim I invented it, I found it on an MGA once. That has worked perfectly well for me, no problem whatsoever, and it's been in my car for 25,000 miles without a problem.
Well, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Steve Jacobian, I guess you're right. It doesn't say that, so it may be worth giving him a call. He's talking about tack repair and speedo gauges.
Correct. That's what I had seen. And for the I don't remember the man's name, that the adjustable steering column. If you have a
It was
Moss
George
book,
questioning that.
if you have a Moss book and you go to page A15 where the steering wheels are, there's a little very small look at what that ring would be that we're talking about, that you would grab a hold of. Again,
Does it say what they call the ring?
This is a really old catalog. This is 2022. So you might be able to see it online, but if you have a catalog, you might be able to scope that out.
I have a 62. I have a 62 BT7 with a telescoping steering wheel, and as I recall, that collar we're talking about is kind of knurled.
Yes, on the top.
Yeah, it's made for a hand to grab and move. That's the intention anyway. But of course, when they freeze up, it's kind of hard. So when you do George does try to break it, kind of wants to be sure which way he's turning it. Want to get that going the right way the first time and not tighten it more.
It's a good point.
I had a question, Pete, that I sent it in late.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's an opposite question to the gentleman that asked about hard starting. My car starts up, it's a 62 BT7 Roadster. It starts up easy when it's cold, a little choke, and it kicks right off. It doesn't turn over like some of my new cars, turns over like a Healy, but because it's got original starter and what all. But when it's hot, it really cranks over slowly, very hard. It ultimately starts, but sometimes I just have to choke it, flood it to get it to fire off, and then unchoke it and burn the gas off. But that's not the way I like to start them when they're hot. Any suggestions on that one?
I would put a reduction starter on it. That's what I have.
The issue is the starter won't turn the engine when it's hot. Is that what you're saying?
No, it will turn. It's just very slow.
Very slowly.
Really grinds.
I'd be looking at a starter rebuild business, probably the commutator and the starter.
Okay. Well, that could
before,
well be it.
Before you get into that, check your grounds, because you get a lot more resistance on hot surfaces than you do on cold. Check your battery terminals and check the grounds, especially the one from the bell housing to the frame.
Battery to frame, is that what you said?
It goes from the bell housing to the frame.
Okay.
Well, if you really want to be clever, do a voltage check from the stud on the starter to the frame of the car while you're cranking. It should be about 9 to 11 volts.
That sounds like a good.
Yeah, if all that looks all right and it's still doing it, then yeah, your starter is due for a rebuild.
Yeah, that's probably the case, but I'll do the voltage check first and the ground.
So
Very good, thank you.
It does puzzle me though. I'm telling you, this gear reduction starter is the nuts. We were stranded in a field with a rally, and everybody left. And my wife and I were sitting there in the field, and the stinking rebuilt starter would not turn the engine over. So I put that gear reduction starter in, and it just fires it up like a brand new car. I mean, it's no different, hot or cold or anything. It just spins that engine right over.
7 concourse points.
I missed that one. What was that one?
7 concourse points with a gear reduction starter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Well, I'm not in that league anyway, so I just wanted to run and drive.
If you paint them green, do you still get 7 points? Maybe it drops down to 4 or so.
Yes, you still get 7 points.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Thanks, Barry.
The gear reduction starters are very nice and they do work very well. The biggest complaint I have is that it doesn't sound like a Healy starting anymore. It sounds like a Chrysler.
But only for a short time, though.
Until it kicks in, right?
Right.
And you get the 6-cylinder exhaust note.
One thing about starters that I've discovered in a couple of cars recently is quite a bit of resistance through the battery master switch. If you do a voltage check across the battery master switch when the engine is cranking, you can get a voltage drop as much as 2 or 3 volts over that switch. So that is worth checking before you go changing the starter.
It is, but the previous owner removed that switch for me. So.
Solve that problem.
Right. Solve that problem.
Other questions tonight? Okay, well, thank you all for your participation tonight. Lots of good ideas, good sharing. So again, this is always the second Monday of the month at 7 p.m. We appreciate all the feedback and comments, and obviously it looks like our weather's finally going to get nice here in the Northeast. So get out and enjoy your cars, and we'll talk to you in a month.
Very good.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Peter.
Thanks.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks for your help.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
good night.
Bye-bye.